Hi guys, this is PvP Reporter and welcome to my channel. Today I want to talk about Sorcerous Cup mastering the Ice Queen, Froslass. Now as per PvPoke, Froslass is ranked 1 currently and you would probably either be choosing to use it or maybe facing it in some opponent of yours. So if you just want to understand the meta and the team building better, you could refer my video on the team building guide. But let's jump directly into this particular video and how we can handle and master Froslass. So this video will be divided into 3 simple parts. First is understanding Froslass, second is understanding its matchups, and third is pretty much seeing some of its matches actually play out. So jumping directly into understanding Froslass, we have its basic movesets, which as you would know is first is Shadow Ball, which requires 55 energy. Now this moveset is most effective against your Dark and Psychic mons. So you will have your general Hypno, Bronzong, Claydol, Medicham, Froslass itself and your Wobbuffet. And apart from that, you have the other 2 mons, Azumarill and Alolan Sandshrew, which resists its ice type attacks. Hence your Shadow Ball will be the preferred moveset. When we talk about its second move, Avalanche, which just costs 45 energy, is a really hard hitting move and pretty much covers the rest of the meta. Now here you'll have your Skuntank, Alolan Muck, you'll have your Munchlax, Noctowl, the Charmers, Linoone and Toxicroak. Jumping directly into its matchups, you'll have to see what are the scenarios which you'll basically face. So let's take the first scenario where you're choosing to use Froslass as the lead mon. Now you may decide that you want to go without shielding Froslass even once, but then how many matches do you win like that? If you look at it, Noctowl is quite a positive matchup thanks to the Ice Avalanche, which deals super effective damage against Noctowl. You'll notice that it can beat Noctowl in the no shielding scenario and in the 1 shield scenario where Noctowl decides to shield once. And what you see over there is the health bar, which is the amount of health which will be left with Froslass if it plays across on this match. Moving on, similarly even with Medicham, but you'll notice that the health is quite low on this one, so it's actually a much closer matchup. Against the remaining mons, against Munchlax, against Granbull, against Toxicroak, Bronzong, you'll see that it can defeat it as long as the opponent also doesn't shield. So basically it's a mirroring shield sort of a scenario. How about when Froslass decides to use 1 shield? You'll notice that there's going to be a significant increase in its capability. So it's able to beat Noctowl just barely with 1 HP remaining in all shielding scenarios. As long as the other mons are concerned, it can sort of mirror them in the shielding scenario. You have Hypno coming in, you have Skuntank coming in, you have your Medicham, Toxicroak, Bronzong still there. Munchlax, starting from Munchlax, you'll notice that if Munchlax decides to shield once, the mirror shielding will not really work here, mainly because Munchlax is such a spammy mon. Granbull, Alolan Muck. So Alolan Muck, if it is able to shield once, it will be able to reach that crunch before you reach your second Avalanche. Azu as well and Linoone. So you'll generally see that these are mons, as long as they don't shield, you'll be able to take it down if you have 1 shield remaining. Now we'll look at a scenario where Froslass decides to use both its shields, and here's where it becomes the most deadly and why it has the ranking which it does have. So here you'll notice that it is actually able to take out even Azu in all shielding scenarios and is left with something like a 10% health. But however, there is a huge caveat here that it is completely bait dependent. So basically your Avalanche needs to get that shield from Azu. So maybe you'll throw a Shadow Ball first and then bait the next 2 with Avalanche and then finish it off with the Shadow Ball. So in that scenario, if you are deciding to double shield, you could win that. Further on, Alolan Muck is also a complete win. Hypno is a complete win, but just like Azu, it is also bait dependent because you need to hit that Shadow Ball on this particular mon. Skuntank also it beats Noctowl with a considerable amount of health this time. Toxicroak as well, and Medicham. Here's the tricky part. If Medicham is able to successfully bait two of your shields with a power-up punch and it decides to use Psychic, it can take you down even if you double shield. So the basic trick here is avoid shielding the first attack probably. With Linoon, again, if Linoon decides to double shield, its Shadow Claw will pretty much be enough to take out your Froslass. So pay heed to that. Now, Bronzong, I want to talk to you guys very quickly. A lot of simulations would probably show that even in a double shield, Froslass wins. However, for Bronzong, if it decides to double shield and not throw any charge move, it will be able to successfully just confusion down Froslass, because what happens is it decides to throw a charge move and Froslass is able to sneak in a fast attack, and that way it is able to reach an additional charge move. So if Bronzong decides to just from the get-go decides to just use confusion, it actually comes out with quite a significant amount of health and a lot of energy to attack the next mon whichever comes. And both its moveset are quite significant for the meta. So that's one important play. Munchlax, again, as long as it doesn't double shield, Froslass can beat it. Granbull's charm is the killer here. So there's nothing much Froslass can do if Granbull decides to shield once. So Granbull is a hard counter for Froslass. Now, I want to explore a second scenario where, say, suppose your opponent came up with a mon and you feel you can beat it with Froslass. So you decide to swap in Froslass, okay? And in this scenario, probably the opponent has fired off 1-2 fast moves, has that 10% extra energy, and obviously it would have also taken some amount of damage as well, realistically speaking. So I've done this evaluation where the opponent has 90% health. So how does it turn out? What you notice is that it no longer wins against that Noctowl with that one extra if Noctowl decides to shield, because that additional energy gain allows it to throw its Sky attack and thus take out Froslass if it does decide to shield even once. So this is a loss for Froslass compared to the normal scenario. Whereas if you notice, Hypno is a gain because with the lower health, it won't be able to throw that Shadow Ball, and that Avalanche will deal significant damage, and Hypno will go down to Froslass in such scenarios. If we keep going, we see that you're able to mirror shields with Noctowl. So it's become a loss scenario if you're swapping in your Froslass against a Noctowl. So you need to be careful if you do it immediately. I mean, you might still win, but keep in mind these are very close matches. Skunk Tank also becomes a loss because it's no longer a mirror shield scenario, and Skunk Tank will be able to throw that crunch a lot quicker. Now here with the 2 shield scenario, you'll notice an interesting thing happening. If you notice in the first scenario, you're able to take out 6 mons in all shielding scenarios, and here you'll notice that 5 of these 6 mons you can no longer beat if it decides to double shield, just in the scenario if it has that 10% extra energy. I mean, that's all that is making a difference across over here. So you will have to be extremely careful. That Sorcerous Cup, is anyone's game. I mean, things can really go either ways. So never probably give up in your matches, and you have to be careful that there is no sure shot match as such, especially if you're swapping in. So be careful on this. However, if you look at Linoon, you're now able to beat Linoon in all shielding scenarios, and this is purely because it is at a lower health. Because it is at a lower health, it is not able to reach that third charge move to take out Froslass. So that's what is the decider here. So I decided to run another third simulation where all the mons are at 80% health and having no extra energy, because we already evaluated the extra energy scenario. And if the mons have much lower health than that, then it's obvious they won't be able to perform all that good. So here we see that again Hypno is a win scenario for Froslass, so that's a gain just because of that particular health. But even Skunk Tank comes into the picture, because then it's not able to throw that crunch before its health runs out. Similarly, Alolan Muck is an improvement. Linoon is an improvement. In the 2 shield scenario, as we talked about earlier, Linoon becomes beatable if its health is low. Medicham also becomes beatable. If its health is low, it's not able to bait and then throw that psychic. And same with Munchlax, also is beatable in that particular scenario. Now, this apart, we all know that Community Day is coming, and once Weedle evolves into Beedrill, it will get its Community Day moveset. But will that really change the scenario? So Froslass against Beedrill, what will happen in the no shield scenario? We see that Froslass will take the win. In the one shield scenario, it is still Froslass taking the win. So obviously if Froslass decides to double shield, it will still win against Beedrill. Now what will happen if both of them decide to double shield across? So if Froslass and Beedrill are double shielding, you see that Froslass can win, and at the same time even Beedrill can win. So what I mean by this is that it is a very iffy matchup, and it is all dependent on a single fast move. So the safest bet which you can have here is that Froslass is able to get an extra powder snow from an earlier mon or something. It should be able to win it out. And honestly, it seems more like an uphill climb for Beedrill. But yes, keep in mind that Froslass can lose this matchup if it goes into a double shielding scenario. Now, with that being said, I would like to move into our main matchups. So for our first match, we have Froslass versus Froslass. Now this match is quite plain and simple, that either of the mons has to hit a shadow ball on the other mon, and it's all about how and when you bait it. So you will see a lot of baiting with avalanche going on. Both of them charge up to shadow ball and then throw an avalanche at any point in time, and it's basically about which one you call a bluff. So if you're able to get your shield up on a shadow ball, then that's pretty much a certain that you are victorious, and that is exactly what happens here. At this point, the opponent realizes that he will not be able to get to another shadow ball before the other Froslass, so it throws an avalanche, gets its health down. It does lose the initial matchup, but this Froslass health is so low, and this is where you see that against Skuntank, had its health been slightly higher, avalanche would have totally wrecked the other opponent's team. So this is how you see, if you're able to manage your baits, you will be able to put your team in a positive lead. So good match across over here. It successfully is able to take down Azu, but then you have a full health Bronzong, and despite its crunch being super effective, it will not be able to take out Bronzong, especially in the no shield scenario. So it's quite a big gamble with Froslass. The second match which we have here is Victory Bell versus Froslass. Everyone knows that grass type is super weak against ice, but then if you notice this match, you'll notice that Froslass health is nearly out, and all Victory Bell has to do is shield once, and it is able to farm down Froslass. First time I saw it, I was shocked. So Victory Bell in this meta actually has quite a good play against two meta mons. You have Azu and Froslass, and that's where, you know, the glassiness of Froslass really comes to hurt. For the third match, I have Froslass versus Noctowl. Now it's a clear matchup where you know that one avalanche is enough to take out that Noctowl, and if Noctowl decides to shield and throws the charge move, it starts getting closer and closer. So if you refer the infographic which I had showed to you guys, here you'll notice that Noctowl is deciding to shield twice, and in a one shield scenario, it becomes almost like a 1 HP scenario. Froslass here decide to double shield, and what you'll notice is that Noctowl had not thrown Sky Attack, instead Nightshade, so it wouldn't have reached another Sky Attack, and Froslass was able to overfarm and now is able to throw an avalanche against the second mon. This is where Froslass is deadly. It also managed to swap out and save itself from that crunch of Skuntank. So being able to take out your opponent's shield, you know where you have play, you know that Froslass can take a win. It can really set up your team for victory. Here you see Bronzong is able to now confusion down Skuntank and take the win. So for our fourth match, we have a scenario where Froslass is swapping into a mon with lower health and with no energy. So here you see that Muck is dispensing its energy and Froslass has to shield, but this literally puts both of them in a one shield scenario. And if you remember, Froslass usually does come out on top in this particular scenario, so it has to shield against that Dark Pulse. And you notice that this trainer allows Alolan Muck to faint because it probably knows that it is not going to win, and brings in that Linoone to Shadow Claw Froslass down, shields against that Avalanche. Good call. And here he decides to sack swap into Toxic Rogue because it knows that there's a Bronzong in the back, just literally sacrificing a full health Toxic Rogue. Out comes Bronzong, and here the trainer has a surprise dig move which is going to be super effective against Bronzong. And out comes Froslass, and that Shadow Claw being able to take down Froslass before it can reach another charge move. Finally, you have Azu and it being able to Grass Knot it down. So Linoone for a clean sweep of the team. So I hope you guys really liked the detailed analysis which I put forward. I hope it helps you in your tournaments and in your battles. Leave a like and subscribe if you like such content. Let me know you enjoy such things. Comment down below if you want me to change or add up something. Thank you guys for staying till the end. Hope to see you in the next one. Bye bye.